balls would come off of my shins or off of my shoulder, and crying and going into the house and getting coddled by my mom, and my dad would push me back out, get back out there. All of that stuff kind of came back, and that's kind of where it all started.
Welcome to episode 360 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. It's award season in Major League Baseball as the year starts to wind down. Free agency is starting to pick up, and it won't be long before we have an eye on the Rule 5 draft. We're also keeping tabs on announcements from Baseball Canada surrounding the 2026 World Baseball Classic. We have a new story coming up on both of our sites in the next day or two, highlighting 10 familiar names that could be poised to be on that roster. Many eyes in the baseball world are getting set to tune into the first ever Women's Pro Baseball League draft. It's set for next Thursday, November 20th, consisting of 6 rounds with 20 picks per round, meaning 120 players will be taken. The franchises will be in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Boston. Several Canadians are considered to be top prospects, including Jada Lee and Ali Schroeder, as well as Albertans Madison Willen and Sydney Barry, and Saskatchewan's Addie Zebart. We'll keep you posted on all of the picks for our two provinces on social, then we'll recap it on a future episode of the show. Speaking of drafts, this could be a big couple of days for Grand Prairie native and Dogs alum Dane Tofflin. He's been named as one of the players eligible for the first ever Banana Ball draft. Tofflin has spent the last couple of seasons with the Rocky Mountain Vibes of the Pioneer League. The Baseball Alberta Awards will be handed out next weekend in Edmonton, and we know some of the winners already. The Baseball Canada Grassroots Coach of the Year is Jason Harper of Whitecourt. The Baseball Canada Volunteer of the Year is Fabian Ellis of South Jasper Place. Robert Visser of Drumheller will receive the Wally A. Foots Builder Award. Keith Elliott of Camrose is the Junior Umpire of the Year, and the Managers of the Year in Single A, Amanda Grishuk of Manville; in Double A, Amy Curry of the Calgary City Royals; and Triple A, it'll be Red Deer's Carla Lockman. Plenty of news on the commitment front again this week. Dogs Academy infielder Nash Pierce is heading to Bossier Parish Community College. Fellow Dog Lincoln Fugel, who's originally from Fort McMurray, signs on with Odessa College. Badlands Academy alum Owen Walker is heading to Sauk Valley Community College. And over in Saskatchewan, Jackson Monchuk of Going Yard Academy will join Pratt Community College. Meantime, a few transfers this week as well. Friend of the show and AHP Academy alum Brendan Cleland is moving on from Northeastern Junior College to Montana State University. Weber Academy alum Lucas Laukinen goes from Cloud County Community College over to the University of South Carolina Upstate. Wildcats teammate Matthew McDonald moves over from Pima Community College over to Wichita State University. And one more from Weber, as Simon Baker has found a new collegiate home. He was originally at Gonzaga, then headed to Cloud County as redshirt freshman. The Sylvan Lake Gulls utility man has now signed on with Missouri State University. On to this week's guests now, and we continue our look back at the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame's special Class of 2025 Legends Unveiled. It was an opportunity for the Hall to recognize people who went above and beyond the scoreboard to make their respective sports and communities better over the years. Last week, we heard from Executive Director Tracy Kinsella, as well as the families of inductees Reno Litzy and Mel Kowalchuk. This week, we'll hear from two of the inductees, Orv Franchuk and Dr. Randy Gregg. We'll start with Franchuk, who grew up near Wandering River and had a pretty good playing career, suiting up in college before a major injury hampered his progress. In love with the game, he took to coaching and scouting, including with the PCL champion Edmonton Trappers in 1996-97, the Edmonton Capitals in 2011, and the Edmonton Prospects from 2014 to 2018. He also coached with Canada's national team and was the minor league hitting coordinator for the Boston Red Sox when they won the World Series in 2004. The Edmonton Sports Hall of Fame member has plenty of stories to share, and we were happy to spend some time with him over the last couple of weeks. Orv, thanks so much for coming back here on the show.
You're welcome. I know I'm gonna enjoy talking about baseball. If it's baseball related, I'm in there.
Yeah, absolutely, you are. Let's start here. Orv Franchuk, Alberta Sports Hall of Fame 2025 inductee. How does that sound now that you've had a couple of weeks to kind of digest all that's transpired over the last little while here?
It's funny that you mentioned that, Joe, because initially when I got the, like they say, when you get the call or you get the letter like the Baseball Hall of Famers do at the big league level, it was kind of like I was really surprised and just not a situation that I was expecting or anything like that, and so it kind of caught me off guard. But then I thought about it and thought about all the time that I spent in the game and playing and coaching and teaching, and having a passion, having an unbelievable passion, as I still do, for the game. I guess it's deserving for me to be honored.
You mentioned it off air. Baseball's been badly, badly good to you. When you get that phone call, what kind of comes to mind first? Like, are there specific memories? Are there specific people that you're just like, man, this is part of the reason why I'm here today?
And that's a great question. And actually, I thought about that. And the first thing that came to mind was me growing up on the farm in Wandering River, Alberta, near Lac La Biche, and being exposed to the game from my brother, who was 6 or 7 years older than I was. It would take me out every other day when he wasn't working on the farm, and play catch with me and put me up against the garage door and throw to me, and I would not have a whole lot of success at first, but balls would come off of my shins or off of my shoulder, and crying and going into the house and getting coddled by my mom, and my dad would push me back out, get back out there. All of that stuff kind of came back to me, and that's kind of where it all started. And then just following my brother when he played out there, going to the games and being a bat boy and just being around it, and I just loved the way the game was played, and the the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, and the competition. All of that kind of blended into, I don't know. I got hooked, man. I got hooked at a really, really young age.
It could have been really easy for you in that moment, especially, we talk about injuries as an example when you're taking them off the shins or off the shoulder as a kid. Like, it can be pretty easy for you to be like, screw this game, I don't want to play it. What was it that made you keep wanting to come back? And beyond that, were you kind of that bratty brother that wanted to hang out with your bro all the time?
Yeah, I mean, just and then, I guess the biggest, Joe, the thing that probably was a factor too is that I got pretty good at it. And so, and it just kind of had a feel for it. And that was probably a big factor in me pursuing the game and wanting to get to do more and get better. And so, I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but I was pretty good at it at a really young age. And so that kind of influenced me into wanting to kind of show off a little bit. And I enjoyed the competition and competing and all of that. And I guess being pretty good at it was good too for me, because it didn't, you still had your ups and downs, and baseball, as you know, is a very difficult sport to play, and there's a lot of failure in the game. And so I was able to get support from family and friends, and it helped me continue to pursue the passion that I had.
Give us the scouting report on Orv Franchuk, the player.
Oh, wow. Yeah, work ethic is probably above average. Well, not probably. It is above. I'd do whatever I had to do to get better. I wanted to be the best there ever was. I don't know if that saying's around still, but and so scouting report. I would say arm strength above average. Attitude above average. Foot speed average to a below average, maybe average. Swing power-wise, offensively, probably above average. And then coachability, being coachable, I'd definitely be above average in that area, because I wanted to learn, I wanted to get better. I don't know if that's a very good scouting report, but just maybe arm strength was more, maybe almost a tick above average, not a tick above average, way above average. And that came from playing catch almost every other day with my brother, and just doing all of that with people that guys that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm. You had a pretty good playing career yourself. You go to college, you get some eyes on you from a pro perspective. Do you have favorite memories or moments looking back on it from a playing perspective that you're like, had to almost take that step back and go, okay, this is pretty darn cool?
Yeah, I've been asked this a lot. I actually had a chance to. I was my senior year at Pepperdine. I think I had like 14 or 15 home runs and 40 some RBIs as my last year, and projected to play professionally. And actually, so I'm playing before the season is over. I'm playing winter ball, and it's like a pickup winter league thing, and I just wanted to play and get better. And so Casey Stengel happened to be at the game, sitting and watching and scouting, and he's still with the Yankees. I can't remember, but anyway, he wrote me up, and then I had some other scouts look at me, and I was supposed to sign with the Mets after my senior year at Pepperdine, but I don't know, about 10 or 12 games left at the end of the season, I ended up really having a bad injury, left ankle, got messed up, and it was torn and broken and in a cast so they pulled that away from me. They took the offer away from me, and so I got into coaching and scouting really early as a young guy in my career. And I went out to Long Beach State and assisted there, worked on my master's degree, and then came back to Canada, and I got a job at the Edmonton Public School Board. And then I got into coaching and playing here in Alberta.
Mm-hmm. When you look back on it from especially the opportunity to come back home and do the teaching thing, do the coaching thing, managing, and we'll get into the Canada stuff in a minute, but what'd that mean to you to be able to give back to the game here in your home province and maybe give a little bit of guidance and mentor some of these young up and coming athletes?
I mean, you know what? That's a great thought and a great question, Joe. It means a lot to me because I feel like I need to give back because I had so much, even though I strived for information and I wanted as much feedback as I could get. I had good people over the years that helped me get better. And so I feel like I need to be able to try to give back with that thought. And that's kind of what I'm doing now here. And I'm working with St. Albert Minor Baseball, and then I'm working with Vimy Ridge in Edmonton, working with the young players, and that's kind of what I'm doing now is trying to give back of anything, not only to the players, to the athletes, but parents too. Parents need to be more in tune as to what the opportunities are for their kids that have a passion and are really good and academically as well as physically and baseball wise. So I'm big on that. I want to be able to help kids get better.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the scene today and the athletes and the quality that you're seeing out there now, especially as being somebody at the ground level, how do you see the Alberta scene right now? How do you see some of those young kids, and has the talent improved over the years in your eyes?
No, that is a huge gone up towards upward. The talent, the coaching ability of the coaches, the knowledge of the coaches, the athletes have really, really improved. And that's one of the things that I noticed immediately when I started working with the younger kids is they're getting good coaching, and as a result, their abilities, even though they only play for a short period of time during a year, Now they have indoor programs that go year round. In fact, I'm working in St. Albert for one of those, and the Vimy Ridge program. I'm doing that. So it's year round now. The kids are going year round if they want to get better. And then now there's so many more opportunities at the college and university level in Canada compared to back in the day, where if you wanted to move on, you had to go to an American college or university. So that's huge. That's gotten really, really better, a lot better.
Well, that's good to hear. Going back in time again, you end up coaching at the highest level in this province with the Edmonton Trappers. You go and win a couple of championships with the team over the course of your time with them. Looking back on that time, though, did you have a favorite player or maybe a guy who you knew was going to be a big star in the show at some point down the road?
This goes way back when the White Sox were an affiliate here in Edmonton. The Chicago White Sox. Ron Kittle was here, and I kind of developed a relationship with him, and just knowing, he was really more of a one-tool guy. He could swing the bat. He was below probably a runner and below arm and below defensive, but man, he could swing the bat. And I even though he was just a one-tool guy, I knew that he was going to eventually be a major league player. And nowadays, one of the things that I talk about, Joe, a lot is that to the younger players is try to learn to play more than one position, and try to be proven on all of the tools that you need to have to be a major leaguer or to be a college player or just to be play in your beer league once or twice a week. These are the things that you need to do to get better, and so. It's kind of it just depends on the kid, and then the moms and the dads being knowledgeable and how to help their sons or their daughters get better is important too. So try to educate as many people in the environment for the kids as possible.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned it. You won a couple of PCL championships with the Trappers during your days there. How cool was that to be able to do it with, I'll call it the hometown team, but the team that's pretty close to your hometown?
Yeah, that was pretty special. It was back-to-back. I think it was back-to-back PCL championships. And, it was funny because during that time, I'm trying to remember. See, I was with the Edmonton Public School Board for 24 years, and during my coaching time with the Trappers, I was still teaching. So 3:05 or whatever it was, 3:15, I'd leave the classroom, get in my car, and probably speed at times to the ballpark to be able to throw batting practice and be with the team and do the video stuff, help do video, a lot of the video stuff that was necessary, and spend the time with the ball club, and then be home by midnight and get ready to go to class in the morning, and that vicious circle. And on the road, I would go with them sometime in the summer when we were out of school, but during the day, I was in the classroom. So it was, but again, that's. A lot of people go, man, that's got to be a pretty long day. I go, yeah, but it was enjoyable. And I had family, my wife and my daughter were understanding and supportive of that, of me being able to do that. So it made it even that much easier.
One of the old sayings I like referring to, a former colleague said it, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So that sounds like that's certainly the case for you. A World Series ring. First off, do you still have that ring kicking around? Where is it, and what does that thing mean to you?
It's with me. I take it, and now I'm here. I have it with me. Initially when we won it, and I was traveling, I was working for the Red Sox. So I was living in Arizona. And I was a roving hitting coordinator. So I had all the minor league teams, and I spent time with the big league club also. When I first got it, I wore it all the time. Mm-hmm. But I found that when I was flying from Phoenix to Boston or wherever I was going, it became a conversation piece almost always. And I got so tired of talking about that that I just finally said, you know what, I'm not going to wear it anymore. So I put it away, and I just wear it now. Special occasions, I'll wear it. Or sometimes I have a friend or people that I know well that want to see it, so I bring it out. And but it is pretty special. Yeah, that's definitely, I know the guys that have played for at the big league level have played for years and don't have one. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate to be able to be at the right place at the right time.
For sure. One other thing that you got to do in your career is represent the Maple Leaf, coaching with Canada. What'd that mean to you to represent your home country?
It means a lot. I was involved not only as a coach and with the team for a number of years, but I was involved initially at the ground roots level, dealing with putting together the level 1, level 2 manual for coaching certification in the country. Mm-hmm. So that means a lot. And I know now I've gone to level 3, level 4, level 5, but I enjoyed helping put that together. Bill McKenzie, who was the head guy with Baseball Canada, was asked me if I was interested in doing that. And so yeah, that was, and you meet. I was meeting, I went to a bank. It was just a kind of a sidetrack here, but I was invited to a banquet in baseball as a member of Baseball Canada to a banquet in Toronto, and I'm at the head table, and I didn't realize that he was coming, but this was back in the day, a lot of years ago, and my guy that's sitting next to me is my all-time hero, Mickey Mantle.
Oh, geez.
Sitting next to me, and I'm going, oh my God! He had to be so tired of having me ask him questions. At the end of the day, he was probably tired. He was just happy to get back to his room. But he was just my all-time hero. And the thing that I remember the most in our little talk was, he goes, I said, so I finally let him talk for a while. He said, I said, tell me about how you feel about all of the things that you've done as a major leaguer and, ups and downs and everything. He said, Orv, I wish I could have just, and this was back in what year? I don't know what year would that would have been. I don't know, in the 80s. I don't know when anyway. Mm-hmm. I wish I could have played one more year, because the amount of money these guys are making, he said, I just wish I could have had one more year at the level at the pay scale that these guys are making right now. He says, because I think his highest salary, if I recall, was maybe $1 million, and that was when he was doing really, really well. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how that whole world and element have changed over the years. When you're talking about 250 or 500 million or a $750 million contracts, it's mind-boggling to me. And yeah, you could.
Isn't it crazy? The thing about it is, if I'm a player and I have some ability and I want to be able to, that should be a motivating factor for me to get to the big leagues. Mm-hmm. Alone is the amount of money you can make, and maybe it's only for a short period of time, but you take that money for a short period of time, and you basically retire on it, invest it wisely, and retire on that money. And so and that's tough too, because the average, I don't know what it is now, but the average length of major league players at the big league level now, the average length of playing time is in the 5 years, maybe mm-hmm. 4 or 5 years range, 6 years range. Yeah. So there's not many, their max retirement, I think, is 10 years now. 10 mm-hmm. or not now. Once you get 10 years in, you max out.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the amount is, but it's a lot. Mm-hmm. Every month you get a paycheck. So
it's a world that I wish I lived in, Orv, I'll tell you that much. A couple more for you before we let you go. First off, when looking ahead a little bit and looking behind, is when it comes to maybe some of the life lessons that you learned in the game that you'd love to pass along to those young kids, or maybe even some of those people who are involved in the game and are, maybe going through some challenging times or whatever. What kinds of things would you love to impart upon them? What kinds of things would you love for them to learn from your journey?
It's funny that you mentioned that, Joe, because I talk about that all the time. And the thing that I talk about is, being a good athlete and being an outstanding athlete is important. But you got to I always talk to them about their grades, their marks in school. And I always say, financially, as a dad or mom, a parent, I want to be able to hopefully send my son to a college or a university on a scholarship where it's not going to cost me a lot of money. So my first question to the kids, when we talk is, what are your grades like? What are your marks like? And they look at me like, what? Why are you asking me that question? I'm going, because at the recruiters now, college recruiters, they don't even want to talk to you if you don't have good grades. Mm-hmm. So that part's really important. And then, being a good teammate and good citizen and all of that, all of the qualities that you need to have to be a good person. I talk about that a lot. And so I talk about grades and being a good athlete and performing well, and and then it just makes it easier down the road for a college recruiter. I mean, college coaches, they want, and then try to be a multi-position guy. Mm-hmm. If you're just going to be, say, a first baseman, then you think you're going to be able to get a scholarship or financial help from an institution, it's going to be pretty difficult unless you just mash. Mm-hmm. And so I'm saying, if you can maybe pitch and play the outfield or play 2 or 3 different positions, you bring a lot of value to my program if I'm a college coach. But if you're a one-person guy, or a one-position guy, it makes it, you have to be very, very, very good at that. So I preach grades and marks all the time to the kids, and because I think it's important. And if you don't go on to play college baseball, or you don't go on to play pro ball, you still have an opportunity to be a success in life, and not just be a guy that's just going to go through the motions and not be a good citizen.
Absolutely. Final question for you that I have, Orv, is looking back on the career and all that you've accomplished, what are you most proud of?
Oh man. Well, I guess I'm proud of the fact that I'm a Canadian, born and raised in Canada, and still a Canadian citizen, and was able to go to and was able to play a sport, basically an American sport, and be successful. And it was, going through that process, it was difficult because a lot, when I was scouted, I was playing college baseball, I was ignored a lot because I was Canadian. Mm-hmm. They didn't feel like I was, back in the day, that was a good thing to have a Canadian in your organization, because you didn't get the exposure, blah, 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 down the road. So, I'm proud of the fact that I was a Canadian playing in an American sport and going to the U.S. on a baseball scholarship, just doing the things that I did all along the way to help guys at the minor league, at the amateur level, all the way to the major league level, get better. And then obviously the end of the whole thing was getting a World Series ring with the Red Sox. But I'm still, that's still not an end. Getting the World Series ring, and I'm still doing what I do today because I love the game and I have a passion for what I do, and I try to help people get better, try to help athletes get better.
Well, you've certainly done that in spades, and it shows as the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame has made you a part of their class of 2025. Orv, again, congratulations on that. Congratulations on the laundry list of successes that you've had over the course of your career. Continued success as we head into 2026 and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Enjoyed it, Joe.
Our final guest this week is Dr. Randy Gregg, known mostly for his lengthy career in hockey, including winning 5 Stanley Cups with the Edmonton Oilers. He was also an accomplished baseball player. He suited up with the Edmonton Tigers of the Alberta Major Baseball League for quite a few years, even being named Most Valuable Player in 1978. After his playing career, he pursued medicine, then had the opportunity to head up the group that founded the West Coast League's Edmonton Riverhawks, who have enjoyed some pretty good success on and off the field in their first 3 years. We talked about it all with him over the last couple of weeks. Dr. Gregg, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
My pleasure to be there. It's always nice to be able to support sport throughout Canada, and especially Alberta. As much as I like Ontario, Nova Scotia, born in Edmonton, I'm an Alberta guy, so it's always nice to see some great opportunities across the province for young boys and girls to be able to play the sport they love.
Absolutely. Let's start off here. Alberta Sports Hall of Fame inductee Randy Gregg. How does that sound?
Yeah, well, it's amazing when you play on a team, especially when you play a sport that I did and was a defensive defenseman. Our job was to make sure nobody ever recognized us. And, the great players scored the goals, but the great players also realized there had to be a great goaltender and there had to be a defenseman to get the puck up to them. So we're not uncomfortable getting that recognition, but we do it because we want to be part of a team and not necessarily the recognition. But, a lot of great individuals, both players, athletes, and also organizers in the Alberta Hall of Fame for sure.
What went through your mind when you were first told that you were going to be part of this class?
I must admit, I'm probably about the 6th best athlete in my family right now. I married my wife, who I met in the Olympic Games. She will still skates much better than I ever could. 2 of my kids went to 2 Olympics in speed skating. My other daughter was a speed skater in the national team. My son was a ball player down at UC. So, I'm humbled by the athleticism that surrounds me. And also, when you get 16,000 people watching, or in the case of the Stanley Cup, and you get hundreds of thousands of people watching, you recognize. But really, it's amazing the athleticism we have around us. Whether it's the 12-year-old volleyball player or the 14-year-old swimmer, they may not have all those people watching, but their commitment to the role that they have in their sport is just as strong as what we had. So, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to play with the Gretzkys and Messies of the world. But that doesn't belittle the importance of participation in sports at every level.
Absolutely. If you could go back in time and talk to 12 or 15-year-old you, would the younger you believe all the things that you were able to accomplish over your playing career and now as someone who's a builder?
Yeah, absolutely not. When I was 12, 15, the chance of playing in the NHL was a pipe dream. There's only 6 teams. My excitement was to put my skates over my shoulder, to walk 3 blocks down to Inglewood Community League and play for 3 hours on the outdoor ice until my mother said, "You got to get home to get to bed to get ready for school." That was a magical time. We developed relationships with friends at that time. We did learn skills, and we also learned that if you're going to do something, you better do it hard. And sometimes I get a sense that in Alberta, when we do have a tough climate in the wintertime, it toughens us up. It makes us, I think, better athletes. I think if we're going to commit to something, we do it harder. And to share that with all our friends out there was a magical time. So, I thought, my God, if the world was perfect, if I could ever play a game with the U of A Golden Bears, my life would be complete. And, that was a pipe dream at that point. Luckily, I got into university at 16. And by the time I got into medical school 3 years later, I thought, well, I'll go up to the University of Alberta Golden Bear tryouts, and they'll cut me after one practice, but I'll get a free practice. And all of a sudden, I guess I was tall and slow and probably not that talented, but Claire Gregg decided to keep me, and that was really the start to be able to say, gee, maybe we can play this game, and give all the credit to the people who teach us to become better athletes. And Claire Gregg was just a fabulous leader and also a coach in that regard.
Looking back on the career, whether it be baseball or hockey or any other sport that you played growing up, what are you most proud of? What really stands out to you as being that amazing moment or those amazing years for you?
Yeah, it's funny. Some people will say, well, gee, was it the first Stanley Cup or the 5th or whatever? And, those are all amazing professional challenges. But, we were professional athletes at that time. When I think back of all the experiences at 10 and 12 and going down to Lacombe and playing in the Lacombe baseball tournament, getting paid nothing, but maybe getting an ice cream cone at the end of the tournament. That was with some of the best friends you'll ever have. Those were pivotal times. But when I think of the most influential time of my life with sport, I was coaching my sons in baseball, and they needed an extra player. They were probably 9 or 10 years old, and their 7-year-old sister was around. I said, Sarah, come on and play shortstop. And it was coach pitch. Anyway, I was pitching, and this young fella hit the ball, man on second base, hit the ball to shortstop. Sarah picked it up and went to touch the runner going from second to third base. And so I called him out, and Sarah came up to me at 7 years old and said, Dad, I didn't touch him. And I thought, here I was. I've played so many sports at so many different levels, and yet a 7-year-old girl will teach me something that is maybe one of the most important components of sport. Equity, honesty, commitment to do what's right. She ended up being an amazing athlete in her own right, but it's those little things, not the Stanley Cups, that are really easy to say. It's a fabulous time, but those poignant moments where you realize that I saw something special, and sure enough, she's now a wonderful NICU nurse, a wonderful mother, and but was sport part of that? Certainly it was.
Absolutely. We are a baseball show, obviously, so we'll focus mostly on the baseball side for a couple minutes here. Take us back to your days with the Edmonton Tigers. What's that like, being able to play in the Alberta Major Baseball League and represent your hometown team like you did?
Well, it was interesting because when I first tried out for the team, I wanted to play for the junior Tigers because, of course, the senior Tigers then had great players, Orv Franchuk, Ray Brown, Tim Young, had people coming from the States. And I knew I was just 18. And couldn't play on that team. Anyway, I could hit the ball fairly well. So Ray tells the story that, I'd hit the ball over the fence a number of times. And Ray says, geez, you can hit the ball pretty well. And Orv said, well, where are we playing? And Ray would say, well, playing anywhere if you can hit the ball that hard. So anyway, my first year I ended up in left field. And thank God, one of my best friends to this day, Tim Young, was our center fielder. I knew nothing about playing left field. But Tim kind of took me under his wing, showed me how to play a little bit. Eventually I got to third base, but, the great thing about hockey is it's a great sport. It's a great challenge, but the beauty of baseball is, hockey you play for an hour, you go home because it's 20 below. In baseball, you play for 2 hours and then you sit around for 3 hours because they're your buddies. And I think the camaraderie and the friendships you develop over the years in baseball are really magical. And then, of course, you add some of the places like Lacombe or like the Calgary Stadium or Remax Field here in Edmonton. It is a magical experience, and arguably one of the hardest activities in sports. To hit a ball coming 85 or 90 miles an hour with a round bat, so it is a good challenge indeed to try to excel. It just happened that I had enough skills to be able to play at a certain level, and but the same friends that I met then are still friends now, so that's the key.
It's funny you mentioned Ray, because we had him on the show earlier on in the season, and he said you're one of the most talented he's ever seen or ever coached. Looking back on it, how would you have graded or scouted yourself as a ball player?
I think very low average speed, maybe a little bit of power. Defense was okay, but the passion. Maybe it was that passion from the Inglewood Community League, that 30 below playing hockey, but I know we went to the national championships in 1978, and I haven't hit 7 home runs in the last 3 games, and it was because these were my teammates. I had to do what I could. I had a fairly decent swing, was big enough to be able to hit it over the fence, but the challenge was not to hit home runs; it was to help your team. And Ray was the leader there. Some of our best friends, Tim Young, one of my best friends still. It's a magical time, and I think we take a look at the Blue Jays right now, and we see these group of players, some of them that were in single A at the start of the year, some of them were triple A, but there's something magical about a team experience. And, if all a person did was hit 50 home runs, but had no camaraderie and no experience with his teammates, I think they're kind of cheating themselves. So back then, the Alberta Major Baseball League was great, but one of the real keys, we used to go to Calgary, and the team would give us $3 in meal money. So a little bit different than the NHL, a little bit different than everything nowadays. And $3 was enough. We could buy enough to get us through and go down and play against the Calgary Jimmies and have some fun. The Lacombe baseball tournament, what a fabulous experience there. 3,000 knowledgeable Central Alberta fans watching, critiquing. They knew what you did good, and they knew when you weren't playing good too. So it was a really nice exposure to then going into New York against the Rangers or LA against the Los Angeles Kings. The Lacombe tournament back then was magical.
I can only imagine. Did you ever think about chasing the baseball dream instead of the hockey dream?
Yeah, well, I did actually, and in fact, in that national championship, the president of Baseball Canada said, whoever plays good in this tournament will get to go to Italy and represent Canada. Well, shoot, I'd never thought that I could ever represent Canada in anything. And so after hitting 7 home runs in 3 games and getting the MVP, I thought, well, I didn't even think about that. Anyway, the president of Baseball Canada came up and said, Randy, that was quite remarkable what you just did, but we're not going to take you because you don't play baseball in the United States. And I thought, I kind of thanked him. I'm not sure why I thanked him on that. But what it did is it told me that you don't have to be an American to be a good ball player. You don't have to play in the States to be a good ball player. You just have to be a good ball player. And I think that allowed me to look and say, I'm not going to be a Wayne Gretzky. I'm not going to be the fastest guy, but do what you do and do it very well to the best of your ability. So I think that rather difficult experience of not being picked to go and represent Canada, which would have been a fabulous experience, was actually good for me. So I thought, well, instead of baseball, I'll go to this other sport. It might do well for me as well.
Went pretty well for you, I gotta say. But in the same vein, it also kind of came full circle for you as well down the road, because here you are now with the Edmonton Riverhawks. And last time you and I chatted, you were just kind of getting started with it. You're just getting the ball rolling. And now you've got 3 full years under your belt. How would you assess how things have gone with the West Coast League team?
I think a lot of people who live in larger centers realize that, we need a hockey team like the Oilers, and we need a football team like the Elks. And we also need a baseball team. And, for years, once the Trappers left because of the difficulty after 9/11 bringing non-American players across the border, there was a bit of a void. There were a couple teams that would try their hardest to put, fans in the stands. But we really thought that, in fact, the city of Edmonton was thinking about demolishing Remax Field and putting condominiums in. It would be a much better tax base. But a lot of us felt that wasn't right for the city the size of Edmonton. And so we got a group together and said, you know what, we don't have a franchise, but we have a vision for our city. And sure enough, we had our struggles trying to get a franchise in the West Canadian Baseball League. We thought that would have been good, but there were some issues with regards to rights. And so one of our good friends said, well, have you ever heard of the West Coast League? I said, sure, but we're not in the West Coast League. We're in the middle of the prairies. Anyway, normally it takes about 3 years to get a franchise in the West Coast League. It took us 3 months. And we've eclipsed every year their attendance record. And I remember going to their meetings in Portland and Oregon and Washington. And initially they'd say, yeah, where is Edmonton anyway? Is that like in Canada? They don't say that anymore. Mm-hmm. They know exactly where Edmonton is. And they keep on saying, what are you guys doing there? And what we're doing is just giving the opportunity for Edmontonians and Northern Albertans to be what they are, and that's great fans.
How proud are you of how things have gone? Because as you mentioned, whether it's the attendance numbers, you mentioned, the community support, even from a playing perspective, the boys were a win away from going to the championship series this year. You got to be kind of that when you walk into the office, quote unquote, there's got to be kind of a proud papa feeling that comes attached to that.
Well, it certainly is. And I think a really good thing in anything, certainly in medicine, is know what you know and know what you don't know. I've picked my share of weeds out here and I've painted fences and things like that. I think that maybe with my background in sport, I can give a little bit of vision, but we have some wonderful people that can do the things. Our coaches do the coaching job, the GM does the GM job. But we had a couple of priorities that I think are quite important. After the first year, our tickets were $20, and people used to come up and say, you could charge more. And I said, I know we are, but we're not going to, because I don't care about people like you and me. We can afford a $30 or $40 ticket. I want that young family who may be struggling a little bit to be able to come out to a game that maybe they couldn't watch hockey, they couldn't watch football, and they come down and enjoy themselves. And the other thing is we have a $9 hamburger. I said, but I want a $3 hot dog, because again, I don't want a dad to look his son in the eye and say, son, I can't afford to buy you something. Now, it's a junior dog. It's a little thing. But I think if you take care of the people who need some help in the community, the rest of the people get that we're not gouging people. We're not nickel and diming. We have a fantastic facility here. And I think if we take care of our community citizens, make sure that, there are opportunities for young minor baseball and softball teams to come and play here, give people a chance to do it, then that resonates in the community. And I think Edmonton's unique like that, as many communities in Alberta. I think that 20 or 30 below brings us together. And, as much as I don't like the cold weather, I appreciate it because there's, I lived in Vancouver, played with the Canucks for 1 year. It's a different environment there. And I will live in Edmonton for the rest of my life. I love the environment. I love the people here. I love their attitude. And I think that's reflective of them coming down and saying, these people they're not charging us $1 million. They're giving us a good time. The baseball is exciting. And then, of course, the great thing is, if we are fans of Edmonton, we want to show that every baseball player goes home. And they may go back to Pepperdine or Utah State or Arizona or whatever. And I want them to say, guys, if you're going to go to the West Coast League, go anywhere you want. But there's this special place called Edmonton. And so far, that's worked out well. We try to treat our players well. Whether they win or lose, they get a really good experience. And these are young fellows that they're impressionable, and we want to give them the best experience as well.
How cool has it been from your perspective to, whether it be to see those players buy into what you're doing, or the fans come out in droves when they see that it's a special night at the ballpark, or, even just seeing a packed house on a warm day at the ballpark?
Well, all of it is special, but I got to tell you, when you do get a chance to play in the NHL, and fortunately I had a few years there, Stanley Cup ring is pretty special because, of course, they can't take that away. But one thing that I'll always remember is when you get your first hockey card, you say, I'm there. Nobody can take that away from me. And because not everybody gets a chance to play in the NHL. So in our first year, I said, guys, we're going to make baseball cards for these young fellas. And, of course, they're not professionals. They're not paid a lot of money and things like that. But, you're part of our River Rocks team. You get a baseball card. But what was really special about that was two things. First of all, after the games, these little 8, 9-year-old girls and boys coming up and looking at their role model. And this role model may be a third-line second baseman in Arizona State. But the role modeling was so special. And these young people in our community looking up to these young men who, they dress well, they act well, they're respectful, they're educated. It's really special. And then the bonus, of course, is to see these young men acting like they're Connor McDavid, saying, somebody really values what I'm doing. And so it's kind of a special time. These baseball cards, I don't know whether they ever get taken home. I'm sure they do. But there's certain things like that really make the experience great for our young families, for our young fans, and for our baseball players as well.
Little attention to detail seems to go a long, long way in this world, is something I've really come to notice for sure. Final question for you here, Randy, as you look ahead, what's next? What have you got on your mind, whether it be with the Riverhawks or maybe there's something bigger down the line?
Well, as much as I like the West Coast League, I don't live in the West Coast. I live in Alberta, and we're really looking forward to trying to get franchises in this very, very good league, the West Coast League in Alberta, potentially Montana. So that's not going to benefit us any, but I think it's going to benefit fans if there's rivalries. Baseball is really ingrained in Alberta, and I think there's some really good communities that could benefit. It's hard work because, there's a cost to run a franchise like this and the facilities. But when you take a look at some of the really good communities in Alberta that have run very good baseball programs, whether it's West Coast League or whether it's Canadian Collegiate Baseball Conference, which we have a team in, if we can do our job expanding this pyramidal structure from the West Coast League to the Canadian colleges to the high schools to the junior high and then down to the community leagues, our role should be to make sure that every child gets a chance to play whatever sport they want. But if it ends up being baseball, we want to give them that chance. And whether they're ever going to make Major League Baseball or not, it matters not to me. What we want is to make better citizens by giving them a chance to play the sport they love.
Well, and you had a chance to play a couple of sports you love for quite a while there, Randy. Again, congratulations on all the success and on being named to the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame. Continued success in 2026 and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. You have a good week.
Thanks again to Orv Franchuk and Dr. Randy Gregg for joining us this week, and thanks again to all of our guests over the past 2 weeks who shared their Alberta Sports Hall of Fame stories. Congratulations again to the class of 2025 on their well-deserved recognition. Thanks as well to all of you for downloading and listening. If you like this or any other episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on your app. A tip of the cap, as always, to our Platinum supporters, the Okotoks Dogs, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, and the Western Canadian Baseball League for their continued generosity and support in helping us tell the game stories in our province. For more on our tremendous teammates, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.